Time for the final episode of the pre-preview before we start jumping into the actual previews, because today is July 1st, which means we are 1 month away from college football starting up. Not exactly,
we can do
but
it. We can see the light. We can see the light. It's there. There's promise. There's hope. There's hope, guys. There's nothing better than hope, and we're right there. This is the month, Jake, that I'm going to be tuned in to all these old throwback college football games, watching them all throughout the month. If you have any suggestions, please send them my way to @WalkOnMoose. Send them to Jake @WalkOnRedshirts. I've got to watch.
I've got a good one. There was the 2020, technically 2021 Sugar Bowl between Clemson and Ohio State. That one's a really good one. I would catch that one if I were you.
I've got 4 of them that you can watch if you'd like.
No.
So, you sure?
I'm good on those. I'm good on those. I'm good on those ones.
Yeah.
You know what you could do? You could go study Arch Manning, because Paul Feinbaum says that he's going to be the best quarterback since Tim Tebow.
This dude, he has to hate something orange. Or, excuse me, he has to do something. Yeah, I just messed up. He's a UT guy. I know he's Tennessee, but he sees UT. He's got to love Texas. He's got to be so hyped about Arch Manning. Obviously, Tennessee has Manning ties. The dude's just, what are you doing, man? What are you doing? The best since Tim Tebow. First off, you could say Arch Manning's going to be great, but to say the best since Tim Tebow, Jake, we were going over this before. How many quarterbacks did he leave off the list? Cam Newton, RG3, Andrew Luck. I mean.
Oh, and you go with Johnny Football, Joe Burrow. I mean, you want us to go to Baker Mayfield. Like, there are so many phenomenal quarterbacks over the last
Sean Watson,
15 years.
Trevor Lawrence. Jaden Daniels. I mean,
Jaden Daniels, another great one.
What he did at LSU is phenomenal. Like, one of the greatest single seasons in college football history. And you want to, so not only are you saying that Arch Manning is the greatest and he's hasn't played significant snaps with the S, he has played in significant games. He has not played significant snaps. Mississippi State does not count. Louisiana Monroe does not count. But you crapped on all these other great quarterbacks who just had these historical seasons. It's just ignorant. And these people get paid to say these things on air. ESPN, if you want some real good
ridiculous comments.
Yeah, come talk to the boys at Walk On Redshirts. You'll get real, unadulterated, raw college football talk, right? From 2 unbiased guys. There's no bias. I mean, Jake, I bet people who listen don't even know who my favorite team is, especially people who watch on YouTube. They probably have no idea who my favorite team is. No clue.
No chance that they could ever figure out through all of the conversations who your favorite team is.
No, there's no way. It would be.
But make sure, if you aren't, make sure to go subscribe to us on YouTube. It's a great way to watch and listen to the podcast. And also find us on Spotify, Apple, wherever else you get your podcast. Make sure to subscribe, rate, listen to the podcast, because we got a lot of fun things coming for this upcoming season, especially now that we're getting into the last pre-preview, which is, in my opinion, the most confusing out of every conference.
It is the most confusing. And guys, just to also add some more clarification, these are pre-previews. We're going to jump into these conferences again, but we're going to go deep, and we're going to tell you who we think the actual winners of the conference are going to be. We're going to talk about our dark horses. We're going to talk about who our winners are, and we're really going to dive deep in the top echelon of the team. But just know the pre-preview is us before we've done our deep research. We're smart. We're highbrow here. We say research, right?
Research. But if you haven't caught any of the previous ones, this is how it works. Will and I have ranked every team, so 1 to 16, combined our ranking to get a number, so 1 to 16. So if we both have a team at 16, they're 16. If we both have a team at 1, they're 1. And we have them ranked in between. There's a lot of ties this week because don't really know how a lot of these teams fit, and I don't think most even people that follow the Big 12 have a really good idea of what's going to happen. We even have some news with the Big 12 this week because there's still a changing landscape in it that we'll get to here in a little bit. But we'll start at number 16, and we both agree on this one here. We both have UCF here at the bottom. The one thing, we'll go through this as well, we are each going to pick one thing we like and one thing we dislike about each program. So
love and hate. We use strong words over here.
Love and hate. Things we love, things we hate. So as we get to number 16 here, we've got UCF. Do you want to talk about what you love and what you hate?
I sure do, and I know you want to. I know you want to, Jake. But what I love is Scott Frost, the national championship winning coach, is back. Tongue in cheek. But with all jokes aside, Scott Frost made UCF relevant. I mean, he had guys like Denzel Perryman, Blake Bortles coming in there, and then changing the landscape of college football and really putting UCF in the forefront of a conversation that ended up getting them to the Power Four. Yes, he wasn't there when they got to Power Four, but all the stuff that Scott Frost did for the years that he was there is the reason why UCF is where they are. I love that about that. So that means the culture is going to come back. Gone are the days of Gus Malzahn. The bad man's gone. You can start moving in the right direction. But what I don't like is the inexperienced backfield. Yes, KJ Jefferson wasn't the best quarterback for UCF, but losing. Oh man, now the running back slipping my mind.
Bowser, was it Bowser?
No, it wasn't Bowser. Hold on, I can pull it up right here.
RJ Harvey.
Losing RJ Harvey is a huge hit. I mean, RJ Harvey. If I were you and you play fantasy football and you're late in the drafts, pick up RJ Harvey. The dude can freaking play. He's a power runner. He plays behind his pads. But to go back to my point, losing a guy like that when you need 2-3 yards in a close game in these clutch situations, a guy like that who's going to get it almost every single time is huge in making the offense roll and also helping your defense because your offense is staying on the field. So it's going to be tough this year. They don't have a proven quarterback. Their quarterback's never started. They don't have a proven running back. He's never started at UCF. Miles Montgomery, I think he was at. Oh no, he's from the program. So they don't have two of the guys that are coming back in are not starters from last year. So the two most important besides the offensive line, inexperience.
They also brought in Jaden Nixon, a running back from Western Michigan, who had almost 1,000 yards last year. Who could push for it, but MAC to Big 12. We'll see how that translates. The one thing for me that I love is very similar to you about what I love. You love about UCF. Scott Frost is back. We saw what he did. He turned the program around. He really instilled a strong culture there, one that Josh Heupel was even able to benefit off of and help catapult him to the Tennessee job. So I think Scott Frost is a smart, offensive-minded coach. I think he's going to fit better at the Big 12 than he did in the Big 10 with Nebraska. So I think that is a stronger benefit. Also, the standards are lower at UCF. Nebraska, they are fighting to try to get back to be relevant. UCF, you're not expected to win 10 or 11 games every year. Not that you are at Nebraska, but you're expected to compete at a higher level. What I hate is the fact that he hired Alex Grinch. That is coaching malpractice.
Can you still love Scott Frost after he did that? I know that's what you love about UCF, but I don't know if you can still love him after that, Jake.
So let me read you off some stats. So his final 3 seasons as the defensive coordinator at USC.
The Lincoln Riley killer.
If you're not familiar, I have my Alex Grinch tracker, which is going to make an appearance this fall. I had to take a year off. But the last 3 seasons from 2021 to 2023, scoring defense averaged 92nd in the country. Total defense averaged 101st. Passing defense averaged 110th. And rush defense averaged 76th.
Oh, that's pretty good. That's pretty good comparatively.
Yeah, I mean, if you're playing, football and you're trying to get the most points, yeah. But the problem is this is golf scores, and you want to be the lowest as possible. And this man hit triple digits in multiple of these categories. So that ain't good. And when you're going to now all of a sudden have to rebuild a defense, I don't trust this guy to maintain a strong defense, let alone rebuild one.
And you know what, Jake? When is the most significant football played? After Christmas. Who stole Christmas? The Grinch. So if Christmas is gone, how are you going to be playing late in the season in the most significant time?
Alex Grinch stole Christmas. That's the answer.
Yep.
Alex Grinch stole Christmas. Next one we got here, we have Arizona. I had Arizona at 15. You had Arizona at 14. We both agree that they are going to be towards the bottom. I think that's pretty obvious that this Arizona team, the one thing I do like is Noah Fafita is still there. You've got some experience at quarterback. We know what he can do. We saw what he did 2 years ago. What I really hate is that the main staple of your offense, Tet McMillan, went in the top 10 of the NFL draft. And now your receiving core
Shout out my Panthers.
is not necessarily in shambles. You have Chris Hunter. He had 300 yards last year. They bring in Chris Hudson from Wazoo, who had 680 yards, and they bring in Luke Wysong from New Mexico at 800 yards. And now these guys come and had experience and showed production, but none of them are having the talent that Tedro McMillan did, and he had 1,300 yards last year. I'm concerned that this wide receiver core is not going to be very strong, and that Fafita is going to look even worse than he did last year.
Yeah, so since you spoiled mine, I have the same exact as yours. Mine says Noah Fafita can sling it. Who will Fafita sling it to? And to kind of piggyback on who he'll sling it to and the receivers, the most glaring thing about these two guys who are slated to start, or these three guys that are slated to start, and the difference between them and Ted McMillan. Ted McMillan was 6'4". You know how tall these three guys are? 5'10", 5'10", 6'1". That ain't 6'4". So Fafita, you might have been a Ted McMillan merchant. You have the opportunity to change that with these guys and find out, having that big target really bails you out a lot. So we're not going to really know who Arizona is this year. They weren't really good last year, and they had Ted McMillan, and they had Noah Fafita. They don't have the offensive focal point, but they do have the nucleus in the quarterback. So that could be a good thing. I just don't think so.
Next one we got here on our list, we have Cincinnati. You had Cincinnati at 13. I had Cincinnati at 14. We both agree that they're not going to be strong teams this year. What do you like about Cincinnati? What do you not like about the Bearcats?
I love that they got Dante Corleone to come back. So when they were still in the AAC, he was first team all AAC. Oh, how's that going to translate to a Power 4 schedule? He just goes and becomes a first team all Big 12 team defensive tackle. Very, very good defensive tackle. Going to be a first through third round pick. So he can really anchor that defensive line and that the overall defense for Cincinnati. What I hate, they fell apart at the end of the year last year. I mean, they beat Arizona State. People forget. I know Sam Levitt didn't play, but that's a freaking playoff team. So who still had Cam Scatterbo. So you have a team in Cincinnati who just the wheels fell off at the end. So how can you keep the momentum from winning these big time games? And then like the games they lost at the beginning, the first half of the season, Jake, were close. They were 5 points, 6 points, 7 points. Then you got at the end of the season, they were getting blown out by Utah, by BYU. They were just getting crushed. So what happened? What fell apart? How do you fix that? And hopefully bringing back, some core guys like a Corleone on the defensive line can really help you do that.
Yeah, the one thing I like is there's actually two things that I like about this. I'm not super high on Cincinnati, but there's two reasons I think that they could potentially fight for a bowl game. They avoid Kansas State, Arizona State, and Texas Tech, who are three of the perceived favorites in the Big 12 this year. So those should help them avoid losses. Not that they couldn't win those games, but they did beat Arizona State last year, but avoiding them makes your schedule a little bit easier. They also brought in Tyree Walker from Wisconsin, which gives them an experienced running back, a guy who can immediately step in there and borderline be 1,000-yard back. The thing I don't like is they lost both of their starting cornerbacks to the transfer portal. When you lose both your starting cornerbacks to the portal, I'm not a huge fan of it. How are you going to find success in a conference where passing the ball seems to be prevalent? I know the Big 12 has evolved over the years, especially with Texas and Oklahoma leaving the conference. It's definitely a little bit more of a physical conference, at least, but they still throw the ball a lot.
You also replace them with a guy from North Texas and a guy from Coastal. And no disrespect, but it's really unknown what you're going to get out of that. So that stinks. I will also say when talking about Cincinnati and Tyree Walker, if you can't run with I got caught in the bait. I got Jake. I was about to say, if you can't run with Wisconsin, how are you going to run with Cincinnati? But I forgot that was Luke Fickell's Wisconsin last year.
That was his air raid team.
That was the air raid team. I take it back. I never said it. Sorry, Tyree Walker. You got a chance.
I think that's going to help them for sure. They bring back Brendan Sorsby. I think this team could fight for a bowl game, but I could also see Satterfield just falling apart and them looking for a new coach. To me, Satterfield has to win 7 games. If he doesn't win 7 games, I think they're going to replace him.
Yeah.
Next one we got here is West Virginia. I had West Virginia at 13. You had West Virginia at 11. So they come in at the 13 spot here. What do you like about West Virginia this year?
I mean, I love that they they have a completely new identity. So obviously the identity wasn't working. What they had, I mean, they replaced everything. I mean, how many transfer portal guys? 47 guys in the portal.
Yeah, they had 40. They lost 40 and brought in 40, I believe, in the portal.
Yeah, which is freaking insane. You get Rich Rodriguez back. When Rich Rodriguez was at West Virginia, they were a powerhouse. I mean, you got to think of Geno Smith, Tavon Austin, Steve Slayton, those kind of guys, Bruce Irvin, to go on the defensive side of the ball. Owen Schmidt, shout out Owen Schmidt, one of my favorite fullbacks of all time. So you have that guy back in West Virginia, and there's a lot of talent in that area. Now, who are you competing with? You're competing with Penn State. You're competing with Ohio State. You're competing with, all these other teams in the DMV. So good luck. But he was able to do it before. I think he can do it again. But I like you come back to this old identity, which is a new identity. So a little boom, boom. But you're gonna have growing pains. So with losing your who was the coach last year? Dave.
No, I'm blanking. He came from Appalachian State before that. I'm pretty sure, or was it Louisiana? One of the Louisiana.
We'll come back to it.
Neil Brown.
There we go. This is grade A podcasting. We don't miss a beat here. So Neil Brown was there. You couldn't quite get it over the hump. You bring back Rich Rodriguez. You change that. So, but you go back to his culture. You're going to see some growing pains. Obviously, you see it already with the transfer portal. Culture has to be instilled. You're going to see a lot of movement, a lot of change, a lot of shuffling on the roster. What's going to happen for this year? Who knows? It's going to be a crapshoot. You won't know how Rich Rod's going to do until about the second or third year.
Yeah. The thing I hate is 47 players in the portal year one. I think it's going to be a struggle. This reminds me a little bit of the Colorado situation. Coach Prime came in, and obviously a ton of guys hit the portal. I think it's going to be a little bit similar with you saw 47 guys hit the portal. The one thing I do like is I believe they're starting from a better foundation than what Colorado was. West Virginia was in a much better spot. I mean, there's talent on this team. Jaheim White ran for, I believe it was like 800 yards last year. He's an explosive guy. And you also had Rodney Gallagher, who as a redshirt freshman, or maybe it was a sophomore last year, was probably their best receiver, even if he didn't play up to it every year. He's got the most explosive ability, which I think Rich Rod is going to be able to find that. He's going to make sure that his best players get the ball in the right situations. I think this West Virginia team is going to be exciting. I don't know if they're going to win a ton of games, but September 13th, they play Pitt. I think that's going to be a big game because Rich Rod also understands the backyard brawl. He understands the importance of it.
And that was a hell of a game last year, too. I don't know if you remember. Eli Holstein pulled out some late game heroics in that one to come back and beat West Virginia. That was a fun game.
But this schedule, I mean, we don't know what the Big 12 is going to be, but they don't avoid, many of the potential top teams. And they get a bunch of tough games on the road. So we'll see. I think that it's going to be exciting. I think they're going to pull at least one upset. And by upset, I don't think it's going to be like a top 10 team. I think they're just going to be at least a 10-point underdog in a game, and they're going to come out and win. So it might be an unranked team for all I know, but I think this team is going to have some excitement in it. Next one here, we got Oklahoma State actually tied with West Virginia. We both had Oklahoma State at 12. Oklahoma State's coming off a very rough season last year, one of the worst, if not the worst, in the Mike Gundy era. They went 3-9 after having double-digit wins the year before. People thought that they were going to be the favorite heading into the Big 12 last year, and then they were absolutely terrible, For me, when I look at this Oklahoma State team, the one thing I love is kind of the opposite of West Virginia. I love that they brought in 40 transfers. This team was not good last year. Mike Gundy went and cleaned house. 40 new transfers, whole new assistant coaching staff for the most part. Gundy understands that that's not acceptable and you just can't keep the status quo. So right. I actually do like that he went out and brought a ton of guys in.
And that's tough to do, especially if you've been there for a long time, Jake. Sorry to cut you off. But when you've been a guy that's been he's been there for 21 years. So a lot of the guys, he's probably become pretty close with if they haven't left his program. And for him just to cut bait, that takes some humility to recognize, hey, I made a mistake in hiring this person. They're not a good fit anymore. Let's get rid of it. And B, it's just tough because they're people. that you probably come close to, come close with. You've met their families probably, so it's difficult. So good on him for being able to do it.
Yeah, he understands that change had to happen. You couldn't go and win 3 games again. Not that Oklahoma State's expecting to win 10, 11 games every single year, but they certainly are expecting to win more than 3, even in a down year.
Right.
They understand that a down year, 3 wins is still unacceptable.
And not only was it that they only run 3, did they only have 3 wins? They only won the first 3 games. That means they fell apart. Yeah.
Yeah. And they barely beat Arkansas. That was a struggle for them to beat Arkansas.
Yeah, they came back from 21 points down.
And the thing is, a lot of these games were not close. Like, they got blown out by West Virginia. They got blown out by Kansas State. They got blown out by TCU. They got blown out by Colorado. Like, it's not like they were competitive in a lot of these games. They were just getting the doors knocked off of them.
Yeah.
The thing I don't like about this year is the expected 2 guys battling for the quarterback position, Haas Henge and Zane Flores. Neither one has attempted a pass in college football.
Haney's the other quarterback.
Yeah.
But you're right. So
you're putting 2 guys in competition against each other, and you have yet to see them play in a collegiate game. Now, luckily for them, they have Tennessee Martin week 1. Unlucky for them, they have Oregon week 2.
Yeah, and that's you better know where you're going with that one. So I mean, to jump in, you were setting the roster. You already hit on that. You were setting the coaching staff. And I hate that Gundy's on his last leg, it seems. I mean, they're losing recruiting battles. They're losing players in the transfer portal. It just seems like he's fighting for his job. Like last year was just a rough look for Mike Gundy on someone who's a legend of Oklahoma State. I mean, I hope last year doesn't do too much to his legacy, and you hope he doesn't stick around too long to ruin his legacy at Oklahoma State. But you could also flip that hate one to be something great. Like if Mike Gundy has any piss to him, if he's on his last leg, he's gonna really put everything he has into this to come out on the other side. So I don't know. We'll see. I mean, he's been there for 21 years for a reason. Also, fun fact: who is the number 1 rusher in Oklahoma State history?
Barry Sanders.
It's not. He's also not top 3.
Is it Ollie Gordon?
No, it's Thurman Thomas, who's another Hall of Fame running back. But Barry Sanders isn't even a top 3 in their all-time rushing stats. Is that not crazy?
Well, Barry Sanders, I'm pretty sure just like came out of not necessarily came out of nowhere, but his junior year, he rushed for like 2,500 yards. And I think his sophomore year, he rushed for something like 400.
Yeah, Thurman Thomas in 4 years ran for 5,001 yards.
Yeah, I think Barry Sanders is like 3,000-ish.
Yeah.
So he's like down there.
So, I mean, that's just mind-boggling to me.
Oklahoma State, quiet, massive running back school.
Yeah. Also
tied with Oklahoma State here at number 11, we got BYU. I have BYU at 9. You have BYU at 15. I think I know why you have BYU where you do, but I'm going to let you speak about it.
There's a lot of jokes I want to make. This could be a very serious situation if some of the allegations are true. I've heard very mixed things. One is that she dropped the
charges, so
she did already. Okay, so that's good.
It was a civil case, so there was never actually, but he broke the honor code, so he's entering. Jake Retzlaff, if you don't know, Jake Retzlaff is entering the transfer portal. Jewish quarterback from BYU, broke the honor code. BYU has an honor code that every student has to agree to when you go there. One of them includes no premarital sex. It's just part of that, and he was facing a 7-game suspension for breaking the honor code.
Yeah, so and that's not applied by the football team. That is applied by the school, as Jake is alluding to. So I don't really want to make a comment on it until I know more. I mean, I know that much. So fun fact, because I don't know the roster, I think is just without that quarterback. I mean, yes, Jake Retzlaff wasn't the greatest, but he was good, very, very good. And now it's like
you're losing your starting quarterback July
1st. In July, and it's not due to injury. Like the locker room is probably like feeling really weird. They probably have a weird feel in their stomach. They just lost a dude, and it's over like discipline things. Gotta be a real weird situation. But to make you feel better, if you are BYU, Mo Bamba plays cornerback for your team. And it's Mo Re Bamba. So you can take that to the bank for what it's worth. I think losing Retzloff is going to take the wind out of their sails. Or maybe they rally around this and have a really good season. I don't know. But I'm not – I've lost all hope in BYU. I mean, if anybody's going to get him right, it's going to be Kalani Sitake. I mean, I think he's a phenomenal head coach. I mean, he's been there for 10 years for a reason. So he's going to have to earn it this year. He's going to earn that paycheck this year for sure.
Yeah. So the one thing that I like about BYU is that both their leading rusher, LJ Martin, and their leading receiver, Chase Roberts, are back. So even with all the situation with Retzloff going off, having an established running back, an established wide receiver, that's going to make the new quarterback's job a lot easier. You look at the team, they're replacing most of the offensive line. That's not going to be easy. The defense is really what the bread and butter were last year. So as much as, my hate is whatever's going on with Jake Retzloff and a new quarterback in July. It's the fact that you are 1 month away from camp, and now you are having a quarterback battle that you did not anticipate having 30 days ago. Now, all of a sudden, you are having a quarterback battle heading into fall camp that you thought you had an established starter. So that's the downside. But the defense was the bread and butter last year. When you go back and you look, SMU, they only gave up 15 points. Wyoming, 14 points. Kansas State, 9 points. Arizona, 19 points. Utah, 21 points. Kansas, 17 points. Colorado, 14 points. So, the defense was the bread and butter. It was helping them. Jake Retzloff completed less than 60% of his passes. Losing him hurts. There's no way around that. But it's not like he was a projected first-round pick. It's not like he was going to be a Heisman contender for the year. He was a good game manager. He was not excellent, as a quarterback.
Right. He's a good runner. He's a really good runner. I think he ran for 500 yards. 536 yards. But the best friend of a new quarterback is, Jake? An established running back. And then when your smallest receiver is 6'1", but his name is Tiger, which is pretty cool, Tiger Bachmeyer. But then your other two receivers are 6'4" and 6'5". Then you have a 6'4" tight end. That helps out a little bit.
Having some big guys that can go up and get the ball make your life a little bit easier. Catch radius becomes pretty wide.
That's right.
Next one we got here at number 10, we have Colorado. I had Colorado 11. You had Colorado 10. We both agree they're going to be towards the bottom here. It's a massive year for Colorado. We got Shedeur Sanders, Shiloh Sanders, Travis Hunter. Basically, all of Coach Prime's kids are in the NFL at this point. What do you like? What do you hate about Colorado this year?
I mean, I like that you're able to go get a guy like Julian Lewis. I don't think he's going to start. I think Caden Salters is going to start. Some people don't think that, but I think when you have a guy that's that established, Caden Salters out of Liberty, transferred over to Colorado, that's going to be very helpful to reignite that offense. I mean, he's not Shedeur Sanders in terms of passing, but what he does is he can run. And what Colorado struggled with the most last year was giving up sacks and allowing pressures on Shedeur Sanders. So if you have a guy like Caden Salters, not KJ, sorry. You can't just send people, as hard as you used to. You can't just pin yours back and go. You got to play some containment. It's going to change how defenses play them. So I think that's a really good thing for them. You lost a Heisman winner is what I hate. You lost Travis Hunter. I know he became this controversial figure because of him winning the Heisman, which I thought was stupid. We talked about this last year. People began to hate him because he wasn't Ashton Jeanty. We put Ashton Jeanty and Travis Hunter against each other when we should have, as college football fans, we should have loved both of them. I mean, Travis Hunter, for what he was doing, you don't see that. And you probably won't see it for a very, very long time. Same thing with Ashton Jeanty. The fact that he was able to run the way he was running game in and game out is insane. Not to turn this into an Ashton Jeanty, Travis Hunter conversation, but the thing I hate is you lost that guy. However, kind of silver lining, you get to see what Colorado's real identity is going to be. What is the culture that Deion's built? Because everything last year was Travis Hunter, Shedeur Sanders. What has he built? You lose these two guys, the faces of the program. What is going on at Colorado? We're going to find out.
Yeah, I agree with you because it doesn't seem like Coach Prime's going anywhere. He just signed an extension. It's going to take a pretty big buyout to get him out. So I think that Caden Salters is going to be a nice stopgap there. That's the one thing I like. I think he should be a pretty good stopgap before Julian Lewis. Julian Lewis is their future, but I think even Prime understands that you don't want to put a true freshman quarterback out there before he's ready because you can harm the development if they're not ready and you throw them to the wolves. Caden Salters, experienced quarterback. You alluded to this. He is much more of a runner than Shadur was. Shadur did not run the ball. Shadur was not necessarily a statue in the pocket, but rarely did you see him cross the line of scrimmage. He was always looking to throw the ball, which is why he ended up getting sacked a ton because sometimes he held on the ball too long. I think Caden Salter, he's a lot more mobile. He had like 500 rushing yards at Liberty last year. You're going to see some designed runs with Caden Salter this year. The thing that I don't like is the defense lost a ton of pieces. There's only 3 projected starters coming back to Colorado on defense this year. One on the defensive line and 2 defensive backs. Once again, we saw a lot of people coming in and out, for the portal. I think the defense is going to struggle this year. I'm not super sure that this is going to be the year that we see Colorado take a step up. I think you take them to see a pretty big step back. They open the season against Georgia Tech, which is going to be a very tough game. And then they get a little bit of a break before they jump into at Houston, and you get BYU, TCU, and Iowa State in October. I just don't know if they're going to be physical enough on defense to be competitive in the Big 12 this year.
Right. I'm with you on that.
Next, at number 9, we have Houston. So I had Houston at 10. You had Houston at 9. We both think Houston is an intriguing case this year. Why do you like Houston this year?
Well, so at first to be silly, I put Connor Wegman is what I love and Connor Wegman is what I hate. But to be serious, like I love Willie Fritz as the leader of that team. So yes, last year they were 4-8 with his first year at Houston. Great, cool, don't care. He made Tulane a national conversation by beating USC in a bowl game in the Cotton Bowl, I believe it was. Mm-hmm. So Willie Fritz knows how to freaking coach, and everybody wanted him. So it's not like he's just some nobody. And he goes out, he's establishing his culture. It's year 2. He goes and gets a Connor Wegman from Texas A&M. So I like what he's building there. I think Houston could beat some teams that they shouldn't this year. I think they have a really good chance to play spoiler. I don't think they're going to win the Big 12 by any means, but I think they're going to make a massive jump. I think they're going to be a bowl team. I think they can be a 7-5 team this year. But I also don't like the addition of Connor Wegman. Yes, it's huge that you went and got him out of the SEC, you went and got him out of Texas A&M. But Connor Wegman's had injury history, and he lost his job once finally healthy at Texas A&M. So it's like, man, is he the guy? Can he be the guy? Can he stay healthy? Who knows? We're going to find out. So I don't have the most trust in who Connor Wegman is as a quarterback, but he definitely has the talent. I'm pretty sure he was a former 5-star. So he's able to do it. We know he can do it. Can he do it week in and week out? Can he stack days? Can he stack games? Can he stack completions and have a good season? I tend to think not.
Yeah, I like that Houston seemed like they were more competitive in the second half of the year last year. They beat Utah, they beat Kansas State. They put up a fight against Baylor. They put up a pretty good fight against BYU. They beat TCU. I think Willie Fritz is going to get this program up and going. I don't know if they're ever going to be a Big 12 contender, but I think Houston.
But why not though? I mean, you're in Houston. You're in the hotbed of freaking talent. I mean, it's not impossible.
No, it's not impossible. And right now they have a 5-star quarterback committed for next year, which is why I think Connor Wegman makes sense right now because I believe he has 2 years of eligibility left. So you have him this year, you have next year. You let the 5-star freshman sit for a year and get him experience. I forget what his name is. Keyshawn or something like that. I forget what his name is, but he's one of the top quarterbacks in the country and he's committed to Houston and he shut down his recruitment. I think Houston can be, and I guess I take that back. Tom Herman made Houston a cool job. I mean, he made him a cool job. He took him to the Orange Bowl. He beat Oklahoma in the first game of the year, he made Houston a kind of a cool job. He got why am I blanking on the defensive tackle who plays for the Bills now?
Oh gosh,
Ed Oliver. He got Ed Oliver to stay
yeah.
home. He got
What's
Ed
the name?
Oliver to stay home and come to Houston. I think there's potential that it could be a pretty strong program. We see that basketball is basically the big thing at Houston, and could football become that? I don't know if Willie Fritz has enough time in his tenure to make Houston that big of a program. I also don't know if Houston has the money to funnel it into the football program. But I think that they can be exciting. I think the schedule gives them a chance to get up and running when you talk about Stephen F. Austin and Rice, Colorado, who we just talked about, and then Oregon State. Those are 4 games that are all incredibly winnable. You can start with a 4-0 start and get moving. What I don't like is very similar to what you don't like. You're relying on an inconsistent injury-prone quarterback to fix your offense after you were one of the worst offenses in college football last year. They averaged 14 points per game, which was 132nd in college football, 288 yards per game, which was 128th, and the passing offense was 152 yards per game at 126.
Right.
The offense was not good. I don't like relying on a quarterback who is inconsistent, injury-prone to come in and fix the offense. Moving on here to our number 18, we got TCU. This is where we start to jump up. This is kind of the clear difference here because Houston we had at 9.5 points. TCU jumps up to 6.5 points. So that's kind of where I think we mostly had the divide of, hey, there's a bottom half and an upper half, and TCU is the first team in the upper half.
What's crazy is the upper half is 8 teams. We have 8 teams. I think that both of you would agree could win this freaking conference.
Would not shock me if any of these 8 upcoming teams won the conference. So I had TCU at 8. You had TCU at 5. So you like TCU a little bit better than me. Tell me why you like TCU.
Josh Hoover has star power at quarterback, and he's not a household name yet, but he will be. And like sneakily, the Big 12 is a very, very, very heavily competent quarterback conference.
Yes.
You have Josh Hoover, you have Sawyer Robertson, who we're going to talk about later. You have a Connor Wegman, you have Caden Salter, you have
Jalon Daniels.
You have Jalon Daniels. Shout out. You've got a lot. Sam Levitt. I mean, you just got guys littered. Avery Johnson. I mean, this is Rocco Becht. I mean, you just keep going. So that they have a lot of really good names, really good quarterbacks in this league this year, which is going to make this league very, very exciting. Anybody can win it. Every single week is going to be fun. It's going to be dramatic. I think it's going to be similar to last year where there's how many scenarios? I think there were 7 scenarios going into the final week of college football on who could still win the Big 12. So it's America's conference for a reason. It's for everybody. You come in there, you just got to go earn it. You got to go earn it. So I love Josh Hoover. I think he's got star power. Last year he threw for almost 4,000 yards. And
I believe he set the single season record for passing yards at TCU.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, can he bring down the interceptions a little bit? Yes, he threw 11, but he also threw for 27 touchdowns. So not that mad about it. What I don't like is, can they win the close game? Something you'll mention in a second that I'm not going to steal your thunder, but they played in a lot of close games last year that they just fell apart. They lost to UCF by 1 point. They got boat raced by SMU because they gave up 66 points. You got to play defense, apparently. You lose by 11 to Houston. You lose by 6 to Utah. You lose by 3 to Baylor. You lose by 1 to Texas Tech. You lose, you can't, you got to be able to finish those games.
They beat Texas Tech and Utah.
You're right. But they won those close games. But
yeah, they won them.
You got to consistently win those to come out on top and then obviously win this Big 12, especially when you have such a difficult schedule. I mean, they play North Carolina on Monday night. You got SMU, Arizona State. So, I mean, the first half of their season, I mean, is North Carolina, Abilene Christian, which should be a win, SMU, and Arizona State. You're really cutting your teeth into the schedule there. Then you go Colorado, Kansas State, Baylor, West Virginia, Iowa State, BYU, Houston, Cincinnati. So they have a tough schedule. I don't really like that. But can Josh Hoover make a big enough step forward to allow his team to win those close games that they lost last year?
Yeah, you alluded to what I like is they were 15 points away from being 11-1. You alluded to it. 1 point against UCF, 11 to Houston makes 12, and 3 against Baylor makes 15. They're 15 points away from being a playoff team last year, because if their only loss was to SMU, they're making the Big 12 championship, and then you're taking your shot against Arizona State, or I guess if it would have been, I forget who the other team was that played. Kansas State, maybe. I forget who else played in the Big 12 championship. Iowa State. So you're taking your shot against Iowa State or Arizona State, depending on how the tiebreakers break out. But you are that close to playing in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So I like that you're there, you're close. People thought that it was going to be a massive step back and that Sonny Dykes was a one-year wonder. But coming back and going 9-4 last year, that shows that, like, hey, they're sticking around. Like, they're sticking around here. This ain't going away. Josh Hoover was great last year. My concern, the thing that I hate, is the offense too relied upon Josh Hoover's success. They could not run the ball. Could not run the ball. They had one of the worst rushing offenses in the country, averaging only 114 yards per game last year. And I'm just not sure if they need to rely on Josh Hoover every single game. Are they going to have success? They have to find a consistent running game this year. They have to find a consistent running game, especially in 3 of those first 4 games you talked about. I think they can beat North Carolina because I think they're better than Bill Belichick's UNC team. But SMU and Arizona State, back-to-back weeks, those are tough games. Those are top 15 teams. And you have to win at least one of them. You have to. If you're gonna actually contend for the Big 12 this year, you have to win one of them. If you beat Arizona State, you're in a much better spot. Obviously, beating SMU is good, but winning the conference game is more important, in my opinion. So, can they run the ball? Because after that, you get a little bit of a break. Like I said, I think you're going to be able to run on Colorado. Colorado's defense, I think, is going to be beaten up. Kansas State is a very tough game. Baylor, we haven't even talked about them yet. West Virginia. When you get to the second half of that schedule, it lightens up a little bit, but there's really not many off weeks. You have to be on every single week with this team.
Yeah. Fun fact before we move on from TCU. Who is the all-time leading passer in TCU history?
It's not. Is it Andy Dalton?
It's not Andy Dalton. That's who I would have thought. He was second.
It's not Max Duggan, is it?
No, he was third.
Is it Trevon Boykin?
It's Trevon Boykin.
Boom.
Boykin. Good job. You named all 3 guys in the top 3. You just did it in the wrong order. But yeah, Trevon Boykin, I would have never thought he would have been the top passer because he was so electric with his legs.
I didn't think he started enough games, honestly.
Plus, he was under 6 foot. I'm pretty sure he was like 5'10".
Short King.
Short King. Shout out to Short Kings.
Next one here, who we have tied with TCU, we have Iowa State here. So I had Iowa State at 5. You had Iowa State at 8. So for Iowa State, for me, I love Rocco Beck. I think Rocco Beck is essentially a Brock Purdy 2.0. I think that he is a guy who just finds ways to win games, makes enough plays that it's not going to be sexy. You're not going to show up and think, oh my God, he's such a great quarterback. He's going to be a first overall pick. I think he does enough with his arm that he's going to put Iowa State in position to win most games.
Yeah.
The one thing that I hate is that the defense only had 17 sacks last year. They brought in 4 transfers. One of them, I believe, is David Bailey from Stanford, who had 7 or 8 sacks last year. But the other guys kind of hit and miss with sacks. Are they going to be able to rush the passer, or is it going to be where the other team's quarterback's being able to stand there like a statue and complete passes downfield?
Yeah. With Iowa State, I could have had them at 4. I could have had them at 3. I could have had them at 8, which is where I have them. Again, there's 8 teams we think can win this, and I'm not joking. Iowa State, I have them at 8th, but if I went and redid this, they probably would not be 8. They'd probably be higher. So I really like their schedule. I mean, they play Kansas State, which is tough. They play Farmageddon in Dublin, which is a monstrosity against all humanity.
It's a disservice.
And yeah, it needs to be played in a cornfield, not in the freaking potato fields of Ireland. This is America, guys. This is America's sport. Don't play Farmageddon in Ireland. That's all I got to say about that. But anyway, schedule. Kansas State's tough. Then you go to South Dakota. Iowa's going to be tough. So they could be 1-3. or 1-2, excuse me, 2-1. But then you go Arkansas State, that's a win. Arizona, that's an easy win. Cincinnati could be an easy win. Colorado should be an easy win. BYU should be a win. Arizona State, flip the coin. TCU, flip the coin. Kansas, flip the coin. Oklahoma State, I think it's a win. You got 4 coin flips, 5 coin flips. So I think their schedule is pretty helpful for them, pretty conducive for a good season. What I hate is, yes, I like Rocco Beck, but he lost his playmakers in Jalon Noel and Jaden Higgins, which Jaden Higgins, a little shout out for you fantasy people, pick him up late in the round. He's going to be a big time target for old Stroud, old CJ Stroud over there.
Not just a college football podcast, we're also a fantasy football podcast.
Yeah, we dabble in some things. Listen, last week we were talking about ginger snaps. This year we're talking about some fantasy football. You never really know what you're going to get. You really don't.
You don't know what you signed up for when you start listening.
That's right. But you do know, if you are listening at this point, you are a 5-star listener. I want to make sure I thank you right here at minute 46 that you're a freaking stud. I don't care what anybody says. You're the man or woman. You're a 5-star. We would recruit you. We would give you a scholarship. Right, Jake?
We would give them a scholarship.
Which one of us is the defense coordinator out of the two of us?
Ooh. I think you're a defensive coordinator.
Yeah. But you know what? I think you're the defensive coordinator.
Why is that?
I don't know. I just wanted to say that.
Oh.
You're from Ohio, from Columbus.
Yeah, but I'm going to run the wing T offense. We're going to play some tough.
Okay.
We're not passing the ball. We're not passing. We're putting 2 tight ends on the line. We have a fullback, and we've got a big hog molly running back. We're not doing none of that shifty stuff. We've got a 235-pound bowling ball of a running back going downhill between the tackles. We're not going off tackle. We're not doing any of that sweep or nothing in space. 3 yards in a cloud of dust.
Our running back has a BMI of 22%. We're not playing around over here, boys. We're not playing around.
Our running back's going to give your linebacker concussion.
I'm cool. I can be the defense coordinator. Who's going to be our special teams guy? I'll be special teams. Never mind. I was going to make him bad.
No, let's make Mac to be our special teams guy. I bet you he could teach the guy to punt.
We got it. Yeah, that's easy. Boom. We just won the national championship. Anyway, what I hate about Iowa State, you lose your best playmakers in Jalon Noel and Jaden Higgins. Really, really good offensive playmakers. Abu Sama kind of fell off. I was really excited about him coming into last year. He's still on the roster. Abu Sama III still has playmaking ability. He's not predicted to be the starter. I think he'll play a lot. That could help out. But we're really going to see who these receivers are. So I don't know.
The one thing is, I just read that the offensive line has 106 total starts returning.
Holy smokes.
That's an experienced offensive line right there.
Yeah, Clemson's one of the highest with 99. And you said how many?
106.
Holy smokes.
So they got a lot of experience on that offensive line. All right, next one we got here. We got Utah. I had Utah at 4. You had Utah at 7. Same thing. We have no idea. But what do you like? What do you not like about Utah? You told me not to look at your Utah stuff, so I'm curious what you're going to say.
So my tongue in cheek, I love that Cam Rising is no longer a game time decision. So if you're a true 5-star listener, you know that every week last year and the year before that Cam Rising was a game time decision, and that was just a running joke. We can't do it anymore. The bad man's gone. Alex Grinch, Cam Rising. Oh no, Alex Grinch is back, which means Cam Rising can come back. BYU.
And you need a quarterback.
You need a quarterback. Hey, go get your doctorate, Cam. But in all seriousness, Kyle Whittingham just knows how to keep a program running. He's one of the best coaches in America right now. I mean, I don't care what everybody says. He somehow finds a way to make Utah relevant every single freaking year. They return 10 guys on offense and 7 guys on defense. So if they're able with that experience to take that next step forward, Utah could be in that conversation for winning the Big 12. Again, 1 through 8. I kid you not. I really would not be shocked if any of those are in the Big 12 championship game. What I don't like, can Devin Dampier from New Mexico State, was it New Mexico State or New Mexico?
Just New Mexico.
New Mexico. Sorry. I always put state in there. Get my Aggies and my Lobos.
Wolf. Yeah, Lobos.
And my Lobos confused. So shout out. Can Devin Dampier make that transition into the power four. He's more of a runner. He kind of threw too many picks last year. So are you going to do that when you come to the power four? I don't know. I think Kyle Whittingham will be able to set him up. I'm just not too high on him right now. So, but it's got to be better than what they had last year. Last year, it was a crapshoot on who's going to play quarterback. They had no idea.
Yeah, the one thing I love that they brought in Ryan Davis from New Mexico, who was Devin Dampier's top target in New Mexico, because when you're bringing in a new quarterback, having a familiar face, familiar target, somebody you have chemistry with, I like that. Because the thing I don't like is I'm still unsure about the QB stability. Isaac Wilson's still there to be the backup quarterback, but you got Devin Dampier. Devin Dampier, I believe, threw 12 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. There were moments where, he looked good last year. There were moments where he didn't. Is Devin Dampier actually going to be the guy, or are we going to see them go back and forth between Wilson and Dampier this year? That is like the worst case scenario of playing musical chairs with the quarterbacks again.
I want you to add this in too, though. He also almost ran for 1,200 yards and ran for 19 touchdowns. So you sprinkle that in. That's who he is.
He's much more of a mobile quarterback. He's going to use his legs a lot more than his arm. Obviously, in the Big 12, you're going to have to use your arm. But like you said, I don't like the fact that he didn't play a lot of stiff competition and still threw 12 interceptions. You're going to play better defenses. He's got to get that interception rate down.
Yeah.
Heading into number 5 here. Number 5, we've got Baylor, who was tied with Utah. I had Baylor at 7. You had Baylor at 4. So actually the exact opposite of our Utah picks there. For Baylor, cool. I think Sawyer Robertson is one of the best quarterbacks in the Big 12. He flew under the radar as Baylor won 8 games last year. Dave Aranda's seat was on fire at one point last year. Like, people were ready for Dave Aranda to be fired.
We on this podcast thought he was going to be fired during the season at any point. And
they brought in Daquan Finn from Toledo, who everybody thought was going to be the starter. Daquan Finn got hurt early in the season, who was now transferred back to Miami, Ohio. And Sawyer Robertson took over and was the guy, just never gave the reins back. Sawyer Robertson threw for over 3,000 yards last year, had 28 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, ranked 14th in the country in passing efficiency. So you bring back an experienced quarterback, a guy that is entrenched as the starter. So I love that. I don't think that he is a household name right now. I think he has the potential to be one by the end of the year.
Yeah.
The reason I don't like him is I think this team might be good, but also might have a losing record at the end of September, because they play Auburn, SMU, Samford, Arizona State, Oklahoma State. Auburn, we have no idea what they're going to get. But playing an SEC team right out the chute, you don't know what you're going to have.
And it's
at SMU and on a Friday night. At SMU, not an easy game. Samford, they'll win. Arizona State, another tough game. Oklahoma State, they'll win. So I don't think they're going to go 2-3 through that. But if you told me they go 3-2 through that stretch, that's definitely a rough way to start the season, where you're expecting to have high expectations. Luckily for them, though, I mean, the schedule does lighten up. They have Cincinnati, they have UCF, they have Houston, they have Arizona. They have 4 very winnable games at that point. Right. So I think they might be 8-4. If they go 9-3, great. But I think 8-4 is kind of the target point again.
Yeah, and not to copy you. So originally I had Sawyer Robertson as a potential star. I think he's going to be a household name. I think he's going to be one of those quarterbacks in the conversation, go in the first round. I think he'll be in the Heisman conversation, all those accolades. I think Sawyer Robertson's there. I don't think that's hyperbolic. I think he is a phenomenal quarterback. He was recruited by Mike Leach for a reason, right? He came from Mississippi State. He knows how to sling the ball. He's smart, and he's big enough to run and not get crushed by everybody. But to not copy you, they're returning 18 starters. 18 starters. So 10 guys on offense, 8 on defense. That's pretty good. That's pretty freaking good for an 8-5 team if you want to take that next step. What I hate about this team is that Dave Aranda hasn't quite gotten over the hump. So you kind of alluded to it earlier. He was on the hot seat last year. They went 8 games. They let one go against Colorado. They should have beaten Colorado, and they just blew it.
They had it close there with BYU too. They only lost by 6 to BYU.
Right. So there's a couple games that they let slip through the cracks. They could have been a 10-win team last year, and we're having a totally different conversation. So I hate that he hasn't gotten over the hump. I think he can. I do believe in Dave Aranda. I think he's a phenomenal football coach. He's definitely a great defensive mind. We know that. But it looks like his culture is finally getting in there, finally seeping into the boys, and they're moving in the right direction.
I agree. Next one at number 4, we have Kansas. So I had Kansas at 6. You had Kansas at 3. Kansas, Coach Leipold, friend of the program. Big fan of Coach Leipold. That's what I love. Coach Leipold came on our show. That's my thing.
He did.
He came on the show, gave us 30 minutes, was one of the most honest and true conversations that we've had, and absolutely loved. And he invited us to come to Lawrence, Kansas.
He tried to recruit me. These aren't my words. These are his. He tried to recruit me to come on their team, but he said his NIL fund couldn't afford me. So just know what you have as a podcaster. I could be making so much more money in NILs for Kansas. So
you could be getting revenue share right now.
Right. Because I love y'all so much and what Jake and I are building in our Walk on Redshirts football team as the defensive coordinator, I'm taking us to new heights.
But in reality, the one thing that I do like is that
reality.
They struggled early in the season, but towards the end of the year, they really picked it up. And the last couple games of the year, when you talk about for the last 6 games, they beat Houston. They narrowly lost to Kansas State. Only lost to Kansas State by 2. They really were in that for a long time. They beat Iowa State. They beat BYU. They beat Colorado. Those 3 teams alone were all in the Big 12 conversation. And they beat BYU. They beat up on Colorado. And they beat Iowa State by 9. And then they got smacked around by Baylor. But they were having some intense battles with some of the best teams towards the end of the year after starting 1-5, losing games like UNLV, losing games like West Virginia, TCU. A lot of their games were close throughout the year, but they bring back Jalon Daniels. You bring back a veteran quarterback who we believe will be healthy this year, fingers crossed. And I think this Kansas program has the chance to really make a run this year. The thing that I really hate is you lose Devin Neal. Devin Neal was one of the best running backs in the Big 12 last year. So losing him is going to hurt, and replacing his production is not going to be just a given.
Right. And fun fact, Devin Neal, all-time leading rusher in Kansas history. And you also lose Luke Grimm, who's the 3rd all-time leading receiver in Kansas history. So fun fact. Love Lance Leipold. Like I said, like Jake said, shout out Lance Leipold, friend of the show. I will always have an unkindled or undying bias for Kansas now, Rock Chalk Jayhawk. But I love that Lance Leipold and Jalon Daniels are the nucleus of this culture, and they're still here together. If Jalon Daniels can stay healthy this entire year, the sky's the limit. As Michael Jordan would say, the ceiling is the roof. So what I hate is that they lost 6 games by 7 points or less last year. And when we talked about that with Coach Leipold, it was never just the offense or just the defense. It was both. How can you get both of those fixed? Is it the extra year of experience? Because yes, they are only returning 5 starters on offense and defense, but they are behind Clemson as one of the teams that's retained the most talent in this NIL era. So they have their dudes, they have the culture put into place, and they have the guy that stirs the drink in Jalon Daniels. I really think this team could potentially win the Big 12 this year. If not, definitely compete for it. So shout out Kansas. Number 4. I have it number 3. I think Jake's too low on them. So Lance, Coach Leipold, make sure when you're watching this, because I know you watch all these, that you get on to Jake for only having you at 7 or 6, excuse me.
He's just going to give you more NIL money.
That's right.
Number 3 here, we've got Kansas State. I have Kansas State at 1. You have Kansas State at 6.
This is even more messed up. That because of your ranking, Kansas State is 1 spot above Kansas. Coach, it's not because of me, I promise. Go ahead, sorry.
Oh, you're just calling me out to Coach Leipold for whenever he wants to listen to this. I've got Kansas State at 1. You've got Kansas State at 6. I will say the one thing that I love about this is that Dylan Edwards should be the lead back this year. Dylan Edwards averaged over 7 yards per carry last year and went off for 200 yards against Rutgers last year. There's a lot to like about this Kansas State team, but this is the one thing when I look at who they have on this roster, I'm circling and saying, yeah, watch out for this guy. Watch out for Dylan Edwards.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to be quite All-American like Deuce Vaughn was a couple years ago, but I think that he is going to be a stud running back in the Big 12. The downside that I don't like is that their offensive line.
Did Dylan Edwards not start at Kansas State before going to Colorado and then came back? Or did he start off at Colorado?
He was at Colorado first. He was committed to Kansas State at one point.
Okay. I thought I was thinking that he originally played for Kansas State and then transferred to. Anyway, sorry, cut you off.
The one thing that I don't like is this offensive line. There's a lot of production that they have to replace. So I see that there's only, it looks like 2 starters back on the offensive line. So for me, that's a concern. I think that you could see some struggles, especially when we talk about Iowa State in the first game. Now we talked about Iowa State not being able to rush the passer super well, but new guys in here, potentially inexperienced offensive line. How does that factor? But I really like Kansas State. I think Kansas State is going to play for the Big 12 championship this year. Mm-hmm. I think that they have the talent. Chris Kleiman continues to just churn out teams. They went 9-4 last year. He's basically a factory for winning 9 to 10 games every single year. I don't think this year's going to be any different.
Yeah, and you know what helps an inexperienced offensive line? Running the football. Getting the guys, just getting the guys to be able to assert their dominance, get their feet in the ground, put their hand in the dirt, and just freaking go. And that's what they do with Avery Johnson and Dylan Edwards. So I like that. I like that pairing in the backfield. Avery Johnson's a very, very good runner. He's tough. He was pushing Will Howard, last year's national championship winning quarterback, essentially out of Kansas State because of how talented he is and what he can do for the offense in terms of on the ground. So I really, really like that. What I hate is that their October slate is tough. October-November slate is tough. They go Baylor, TCU, Kansas, Texas Tech, Oklahoma State, Utah, Colorado. Oklahoma State and Colorado would probably be the easiest games in that. Everyone else is a coin flip. Kansas is the Sunflower Bowl. That's a rivalry game. So even though Jake likes Kansas State more than Kansas, it's still, this podcast as a whole would be more Kansas leaning in that bowl or in that rivalry game. So just to let everybody know. But what also tells you, again, how crazy the Big 12 is. We've said this over and over again. Jake has Kansas State at 1. I have them at 6. And I would not be shocked to see them in the Big 12 championship game. But this just shows you how close these top 8 teams are. I mean, they really are just shuffle the deck, interchangeable.
Well, and as we get into our top 2 teams, they're actually tied because I have Texas Tech at 3. You have Texas Tech at 1. We both have Arizona State at 2. So when we talk about Texas Tech, this is kind of a program that has never really ventured into this. So the one thing I love here is there has been a commitment from the boosters, from the community, to anybody involved in the program. There has been an infusion of money into this program. Oil money is coming to Texas Tech. Texas Tech is almost a sleeping giant at this point because you're going to start seeing over the next couple of years, if all this money is being infused into the program, Joey McGuire comes from coaching Texas high school football. So he has relationships with all of these Texas guys. He doesn't need to leave the state to go get his players. There's no need for him to recruit outside the state of Texas when there's so much talent in that state. So the one thing I like is that there's a full investment into this program. The thing that I don't like is that they were 99th in sacks last year, and there are no returning starters on the defensive line.
Yeah.
That can be a good or a bad thing. You couldn't rush the passer, so you bring in all new ones, but also you couldn't rush the passer. Why couldn't the guys behind you start over you?
So, brings me to my point on why I love Texas Tech is the defensive line. They replaced all 4 starters with transfers, and I really, really, really like Lee Hunter. Lee Hunter at that nose tackle spot is a dude. And if you want to collapse a pocket the best, you go back to the New York Giants. What was their formula to beating Tom Brady and the Patriots? Well, it was collapse the pocket from the inside. Tom Brady was a mastermind stepping up in the pocket. Well, if you have a guy like Lee Hunter, you can't step up in the pocket. You have to roll out left or right. So if this dude comes in and does what we think he can do, he's going to be phenomenal. You mentioned David Daly.
70 tackles at UCF one season.
Correct. Dude's
That is
a
an
freaking
absurd
stud.
amount of tackles for a defensive tackle.
Yeah, it's not right. It's not fair. He had 45 tackles last year. 1 sack. Ooh, but he had 45 freaking tackles. You don't do that defensive tackle. You mentioned David Bailey earlier. He went to Texas Tech, not to
Oh, you're
you
right.
mentioned them for that matter.
I forget. I think I mentioned him for Iowa State, but yes, he came.
Yes,
to
it was Iowa State. So he came to Texas Tech.
Yes,
and he's a pretty good pass rusher. We're going to find out. So you replace all 4 guys, but I really want to focus on Lee Hunter and his addition because that dude is going to change that defensive line for the better. They will not be 99th in sacks this year. Mark my words. What I hate, they haven't been there. So yes, people are buying in. Yes, you go and get your 5-star back that flipped to Texas A&M and Micah Hudson. Yes, you've got a quarterback in Theron Morton who's this is his second year starting, I think, maybe third. But you haven't been there yet. You haven't been at the pinnacle of college football, and you haven't been in this kind of limelight since the days of Michael Crabtree and Graham Harrell. So it's been a very, very long time since Texas Tech has been relevant. I mean, and think about it. They've had guys like Patrick Mahomes walk through those doors, and they weren't relevant when he was there. So now they have an entire team. They have a defense. When Patrick Mahomes was there, they had that great offense. It was the what's the guy's name? I can see his face. Coaches for the Commanders. He's the offensive coordinator.
Cliff Kingsbury.
You had Cliff Kingsbury for so long, who could coach the offense, but they just god awful defenses. You have it both now. Can they put it all together? And in these big games with these guys who haven't been in these big moments, can they get over the top and get the monkey off their back? We'll see.
Yeah, that's a very good point. They have not been in this kind of spotlight. And then the other one we have here tied at the top is Arizona State, reigning champ in the Big 12. One thing to remember when we talk about all this, Arizona State was predicted to finish second to last in the Big 12 last year. Comes out, wins the Big 12, nearly beats Texas, goes to overtime with Texas, loses in a heartbreaking fashion.
Robbed
in
that game. But we're not
robbed. I agree. The one thing that I love about Arizona State is I think Kenny Dillingham is the man. I think he is arguably the best young coach in college football. I say young coach because I'll say that, under 40. I know Marcus Freeman just went to the national championship, but he didn't have to rebuild a program like Kenny Dillingham did. He walked into a cupboard that was full of talent. Kenny Dillingham walked into a program in disaster with scandal, sanctions, and all of a sudden took them to the playoff.
Shout out Herm Edwards.
That fast. Took him to the playoff that quick. And you see the way he interacts with his players, the culture he builds. When you talk about the transfer portal, he openly talks about that if guys want to enter the portal, he will help them out and he will help them find a home. If they want to enter the portal, they're still welcome to play in the bowl game there. He's not going to force them out and kick them out of the program. He wants them to do what's best for them, but he also wants to be able to be a resource for them because he understands that don't burn bridges here. You don't want to burn bridges unless there's an absolute reason to, but you're trying to help out these kids go into the best situation possible. And maybe that best situation just isn't in your program. And I think the mentality he has is going to help him win over a ton of players over the next 5 years.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and you hear him talk about like one of his biggest pitches in recruiting is who doesn't want to play in Arizona State where it's 70 degrees all year? Mm-hmm. And I mean, they're famous for the party schools and the beautiful women. It's like, he goes, I don't have to recruit. I just bring them on campus and it recruits for me.
Yeah.
But
the one thing I don't like,
sorry,
Cam Scadaboo was one of one. There's no way to replace a Cam Scadaboo. He was that team's heart and soul, the work ethic, the production. I mean, you saw what he did against Texas where he was throwing passes, he was catching touchdowns,
he was throwing
the ball, he was throwing it up. Like, they didn't have Jordan Tyson, and this dude just stepped up and became the do everything workhorse.
Jake, I don't know if you remember, 5-star listeners, we're in the trust tree here. I cried watching that performance. When Cam Scadaboo had that last touchdown, like I think it was to put him ahead or at least to tie it. I forget what it was. I don't know if it's in overtime or what, but I was like, and like the offensive lineman drags him in. I'm over there tearing it up. And my wife's laughing at me. She goes, "What is wrong with you?" I was like, that's football right there, man. It's football. Cam Scottibo is that dude. So I'm not going to take away from what you hate because I said the same exact thing. I think he put it perfectly. He was everything. What I love, so yes, Kenny Dillingham, but Sam Levitt and Jordan Tyson. So Jordan Tyson, they lose him in the BYU game last year, which really hurt him. I thought it was going to make them lose the Big 12 championship. I thought Iowa State was going to walk all over them last year because of that loss. Didn't matter. If Jordan Tyson plays in that playoff game, we might see a totally different thing because you can't just load the box. Jordan Tyson is one of the best receivers in college football. He's going to be a first-round draft pick. And Sam Levitt is one of the hottest names in college football. He was a redshirt freshman last year, redshirt sophomore this year. So he's second year of starting under his belt. Can he do it again? Can he stack it? I think he can, especially when you have a guy like Jordan Tyson coming back healthy.
That does it for our Big 12 pre-preview. There's a lot of confusion. If you're confused after listening to this, so are we.
That means you listened. That means you listened.
We are confused. And honestly, like we said, that top 8, there are flaws in every single team, but there's a reason to like every single one of those teams.
Yeah. And just in terms of the podcast, guys, we've got some really big things coming in the next couple of weeks that I think will be exciting. We've got some fun interviews that potentially could be happening. We've got some fun segments that we're going to try and get done. We were supposed to have one tonight, but we had some schedule changes. I think we've got some. I think this could be the Walker Redshirts' biggest year this year. Jake, what do you think?
I don't think I know it's going to be.
That's right. That's what I like to hear.
There's going to be a lot of good stuff. As we get started, we're going to ramp up stuff on the website here too. We kind of take a break here in the spring just with, I don't want to say lack of content, but I'm not going to force stuff down anybody's throat just because. I'm not trying to get just clicks just because. So when we get back into the season.
Go ahead.
I would say when we get back into the season, you'll see more stuff. But yeah, just shoving stuff down people's throats of what are the top 10 quarterbacks or what are the top 10 transfers. That's not it for us.
Hand up. I just had my third kid this year. Writing about college football has not been a priority. I haven't been able to do it. So sorry. A lot of my fun articles are like, what's the grass greener with the transfer portal? Which state produces the best players and, for college and NFL football. So not been able to do it. Sorry, Jake. Sorry, readers. Sorry, 5-star readers.
Sorry, we got plenty of 5-star listeners.
That's right.
But we will be back next week. Next week we'll see. Might be something special. But we're also going to be starting up here our full previews of all the conferences coming up here over the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned for that because those will be out here soon. And we can't wait to have you guys on again next week.
Yep. Happy 4th of July. Eat a burger, eat a hamburger, eat a hot dog, get after it.